Hey guys, Cameron here. Still NAIDOC week here in Australia, which again, for those of you who haven't seen the earlier video, is a week where we celebrate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture. So I am still cooking with native ingredients. This one's a little bit different. So last time I tried to do a more traditional dish, and this time I'm trying to do more modern sort of fusion. So today what I'm doing is slow cooked kangaroo. It's a bush tomato spiced kangaroo that's going to be pulled with a finger lime slaw, bush tomato relish, and we're serving that on damper rolls. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our kangaroo. Here, kangaroo is like a really nice lean meat. There's no fat to it, it's high in protein, it's a really good meat. As usual, I'm going to season this. Then once I season it, I've got my bush tomato rub here, and I'm just going to coat it in that. So this is similar to any sort of dry rub you use when you're cooking ribs or beef or brisket or anything like that. So it's dehydrated bush tomatoes with some salt and some garlic powder. So now what we do now we've got that done is we're going to cryovac it. So I've got this handy little machine here that you can see. And what this does is it vacuum seals it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it in a water bath for 24 hours. And we're going to slow cook that until it's just falling apart and is really beautiful, like a pulled pork or a pulled beef or any sort of meat like that. So cryovacking, always fold the edge of your bag over because you need a clean surface to seal, and chances are you will make a mess. And I've done it. So in my efforts to not make a mess, I have. So you'll see here I've got some of the bush tomato rub on the inside. It's really important you need this to be clean because you need to get a good seal and make sure that there's nothing obstructing the bag from sealing. So the method of cooking we're using for this kangaroo today is called sous vide. You might start to hear that term around. It's become quite popular over the last few years. And sous vide, basically translated from French, means under vacuum. So you'll see I've got my meat here. It's sealed, no air in there. You don't want anything like that. I'm going to take this over, I'm going to put it in my water bath, and we're going to leave that for 24 hours. And through the magic of television, here's one I prepared earlier. That's a line I've always wanted to say since I was a kid watching cooking shows on TV. And here we are, dreams do come true. Next up, what we need to do is we need to prepare our damper. And our damper is 100 grams of butter, 2 cups of flour, self-raising flour, and 175 milliliters of milk. When damper was first made, it was used with 3 ingredients. It was plain flour, salt and water, and just over time we've transformed this into a more scone-like recipe. The first thing is get your butter into the bowl, and you just want to sort of soften that a bit, and then add your self-raising flour. And obviously next what we need to do is we need to combine the butter with the flour, and to do that you work through it with your hands until you get left with this, till the butter and the flour is combined well. I've already added my salt, so I just add sort of a pinch of salt in there. Salt's always good for flavouring. That's mixed in with the flour. And you just want to keep working it, and you can slowly see there that that's coming together. and you won't have separate chunks of butter and flour. It'll all just be one. I first had this idea for this burger a couple of years ago, and it's something I really always wanted to do. I thought it'd be really, really cool, and for me it's just a Australian culture. Australia, you know, we're a strange country. We're probably the only country in the world we eat both of their animals on our coat of arms. So we've got our mix here, which is the butter, flour and the salt all work together. Next step is we're going to mix in the milk to make the dough. What I like to do is make a well in the middle and then just slowly add some milk and work it in. So we're looking at, for this recipe, 175 mils of milk. Can slightly vary, but what you want is you want a nice thick consistency that isn't wet or mushy. Now we come to my favorite part, is working the dough. So I like to flour down my bench. Scrape out the dough mixture here. I'm only making a small batch here, enough for 2 burgers, just because, well, so you can see here the dough's soft, it's well worked, and it's all coming together really well. So I don't want perfect I want a really rough rustic with cracks and splits, just like damper would have been when it was made traditionally. So I've got the dough balls here, got a pre-oiled tray. I'm just going to stick them on there, couple of slits on the top, and then we're just going to brush that down with a little bit of milk, and then we're going to chuck it in the oven for 20 minutes until they're ready. All right, these guys are going to go in the oven. The oven's at about 160 degrees, and we're going to throw that in for 20 minutes until they're ready to roll. All right guys, back with the Kangaroo now. So we've got our damper in the oven. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to make the filling for this. So just for the slaw, we've got some shredded carrot, and then we're just going to add some finely shredded cabbage to that and put that in there. Put that away. I've got some Kewpie mayo here. I really like it. It's Japanese mayonnaise. It's got a really cool flavour to it and just works really well. And to that, I'm just going to add my finger limes. So we're going to have like a finger lime mayonnaise with this slaw here. Just going to squeeze out all the caviar in there. All right, so we've got enough caviar, and I'm just going to need, producer, I'm going to need a spoon. And I'm just going to mix this finger lime caviar with the Kewpie mayonnaise. And we're just going to put that aside, put our slaw to the side, and move back to our Kangaroo. So Kangaroo here, we're going to cook that for 24 hours at 65 degrees, just until it's nice, soft, and all the connective tissue's broken down, and it's just easily pulled. See, I've got chunks of Kangaroo loin here coming out. They're marinated. I don't want to get rid of this juice because sometimes we're going to need to add more liquid so that it doesn't go dry. And then, as you can see, if you just have a look here, the meat just pulls apart really easily. And I'm just going to continue to pull that until it's all separated into a nice product. So my secret ingredient for this, to make it nice and juicy, bacon fat. So I don't think everyone loves bacon, and you really can't go wrong. So I'm just going to take the fat off that and just make sure I've got no meat in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to begin to render that down with the Kangaroo mix, and it'll just about be ready to serve then. I'm going to also add some more of this bush tomato rub. It's going to go back on the stove. I'm going to put this on the stove top now and give that about 10 minutes, and we'll see how it ends up. All right guys, back again. I've got my Kangaroo here, and I've had that with the rendered bacon fat and the juice from the bush tomato spices, and that's come together nice. It's nice, juicy, pulled Kangaroo. I've got some bush tomato relish here, I've got my damper rolls, I've got my slaw, and I've got my finger lime mayonnaise. First things first, I'm gonna add the finger lime mayo to the slaw, and then we're gonna mix that through. So this one here, we haven't used all native ingredients with this. We've mixed a few modern ones, but the main flavors from this are gonna come from all classic Australian foods. Next thing we need to do is our damper rolls. We're just gonna slice in half, and you can see in true damper fashion, that's a nice dense bread there. Still warm, only been out of the oven about 20 minutes. Next step, on the top of it, we're putting a spoonful of bush tomato relish, and then on the bottom, we are putting our finger lime slaw. And then we're going to fill that with some pulled kangaroo. Top that off like that. We're going to grab a new plate. I'm going to serve that up exactly like that. So what we've got here is we have a bush tomato pulled kangaroo with a finger lime slaw, bush tomato relish served on a damper roll. This for me is a great combination of modern Australia and native Australian foods all come together. I'm going to take a bite, see how it goes. Okay, that probably wasn't the best, but look, it's not meant to be clean, it's meant to be messy. Like when you're eating pulled pork sliders, you want the sauce drizzling down your arms. I'm stoked, I'm happy. I'd eat that 10 out of 10.